You're known as Fast Freddie, and we're sitting here today and we're talking more than just dirt bikes. We're talking a little bit about your life. So thanks for sitting down and sharing this a little bit, Freddie. Tell us a little bit about who you are, where you grew up. Tell us a little bit about who's behind the helmet and the gear and who we see on track. Who is this Freddie Noren?
Yeah, so this is an awesome time to just sit down and kind of sit back and talk about more than racing. So that's a huge thing for me, and I want to share with you guys kind of my story, where I'm at with my walk with God, and how I got there. So as most people know, I'm Freddie Noren. I'm born and raised in Sweden. I came over here to race dirt bikes in 2011. I was on and off to America due to visa and stuff like that, and I've been in America full-time since 2014. Met my lovely wife in 2012, and then we got married in 2015, and she's been a big part of this journey, and I'm going to get more into that. But yeah, so kind of backtracking to the beginning. So growing up in Sweden, I have two great, wonderful parents, 3 siblings, older sister, 2 older brothers, and it's always just a rivalry of growing up with siblings and all that. So it was just kind of a normal upbringing and all that. But we were not Christians growing up at home, and I never really saw many Christians either. And as far as I could remember, it's almost, frowned upon. Like, it's
certainly not accepted. It's certainly not
it's
something
kind of like,
that's
what, you're Christian? You're
kind of a
weirdo?
weirdo.
Like,
Yeah.
what in the world? So I kind of grew up with that mentality as well. Never went to church or anything. Like, there's a ton of churches and they're really cool looking and all that, but there's just, I was not a follower of Jesus or a believer at all, and I grew up that way. So growing up, coming through school and all that, and just, I don't know, like, if I want to necessarily say that I was a super bad kid, but I wasn't a good kid either. And like a lot of people, I got into drinking and partying and doing all of that stuff, and I thought it was, it's normal. It's just what everyone else does. So, and then coming here to America and continuing doing that stuff and being, more than just drinking and just being a bad person. I would say I got worse as I got into my late teens, early 20s, just before I got saved. Just wasn't a very pleasant person to be with, and I, at least looking back at it, but it was not good. I was at a place where it was feeling a lot of emptiness in what I was doing. I came here for racing, and that was awesome, and I love racing, and I still love racing, and I kind of base my identity on racing alone. That's who I am. And when I took kind of a step back and thinking about it and kind of continuing to fail and making people upset and seeing that really, what have I done so far? Like, I haven't really been that good of a person. All I do is ride all the time, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I kind of put all my identity into racing, and that could be taken away at any moment. So fast forward a little bit to my second year here in America. I met Amy, and she was a Christian, and she was like, who is this dude? Like,
something about Freddie, when you meet a girl, something about that, it'll change you. So you meet this Amy girl, and you see that she's got this faith thing, but it was more than just a go to church thing. For her, you saw something real in it, and you started looking at your own life, and you're going, what I'm doing isn't working. What I'm doing isn't filling what I thought it would. Because I'm sure dream, come to America, right? Race here with against the best, fastest guys on the planet. So you're doing that, and yet it still isn't working out. Then you meet Amy, something starts to click and trigger with this whole faith thing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I thought, and you would have looked at me, you could have looked at me like, oh, Freddie, he's got it awesome. Like he's here racing and everything's going good. And, you know, I would say I was a really spoiled kid. You know, I didn't had to do a whole lot. My parents supported me a lot with the financial part of racing and all of that. And so like looking out from the outside in, it's like, yeah, no, it's fine. But I was really pretty empty, or really empty, because at that point, I didn't know what I was missing or did not have. And then I did meet Amy, and I saw this different, she was different. There was something with her that was just like there's something different here. And I just started talking to her, and she was, you know, very quick to let me know about like where she's at, and like, hey, this is who I am, and God definitely used her in a huge way to open up my eyes. So like it helped me get more accepting, I guess, of okay, maybe there is something more. Because before that, I'd actually kind of like a Paul, you know, a persecutor, like Christians, nah man, they're idiots type of thing, and like, oh, you don't need a Bible, it's just I know how to live life type of thing. And clearly I wasn't. But
so you were almost kind of hating on, not hating, but just throwing some shade at people of faith, or had that mentality.
Yeah, definitely.
Maybe mocking them a little, either under your breath or even saying it out loud, like, look at those guys, either in racing or outside of racing.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was exactly that type of person. I'm like, nah, those are idiots.
But then something's different with this Amy chica.
Yeah, so I could see a difference in her, and I got curious, like, what is that difference? Like, why is she like this, and why is she so content? And that was kind of the first step that God got introduced in me seeing a difference. I didn't know fully what it was at that time, and I came to learn more about that through Amy, that, okay, she believes in God. Okay, so that's the biggest difference, because she loved motocross. She grew up in a moto type family, so like she was just a normal girl that believed in Jesus and God. And so that kind of got it kick started a little bit, and I would continue to fail, to put it that way, and it wasn't until, so I met Amy end of 2012, and then beginning of 2013, that's when it really kind of like clicked. I remember I had done something that was not very good, and I can't remember what I had done actually. I just remember the feeling, and
you failed again.
I failed again, and I kept failing, and I can't fix it. Like I don't know. Like every time I try to fix
it's
something,
broken, and I don't know how to fix
worse.
it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I remember laying in bed in California, and that was the first time I kind of cried out to God. I didn't know how to do that, and I'm like, whatever, whatever you are, if you are anything, God, whatever they call you, if you're real, like, I'm like at my knees right now. I can't fix this. I don't know how to fix things. I keep breaking.
It was a humbling moment for you.
Yeah, and that's really when God shook me up and like made Himself known to me. Like I could feel it. It's hard to, unless you felt it, it's hard to explain the feeling. I mean, you would know as well, but it was this feeling of like, He is here. I could feel God's presence.
It's undeniable when that happens.
Yeah, and it's, you know, the Bible tells us that it's foolishness to those who are perishing. So like, that's how I was before. It was foolishness to me until that moment. I'm like, this is real. And I continued to fail, but I continued to become better and grow more as well in my faith at that point. And I recognized that I'm a sinner and a bad sinner, but God doesn't have a standard of you're a super sinner or a bad sinner. When we lie, we've sinned. So we've all sinned. So I realized I was a sinner, but there was some grace in that too. Once I started learning more about Jesus and reading through the Bible, and then God would kind of help the way God helped me see Him more, He would put things in my life to make it more clear. Like, I remember coming into 2014, I was just privateering it, and Factory Honda had an injured rider, and they needed a filling spot, and Lars Lindström, fellow Swedish dude, I remember him calling me.
Swedish brothers sticking together. Yeah, Lars.
He called me after High Point and said, hey, they're probably going to need a filling guy. And I was kind of the first guy in line, I guess, that didn't have a ride. You should call Dan. So I called Dan, and we got set up to do a test ride. I flew out to California and test rode with Factory Honda, and they were like, yeah, we're going to want to hire you. But the person that was injured at that time was Barsha. So my teammate was Trey. So I'm early in my walk with the Lord, and I'm kind of moving up in a sense in the motor industry. And I didn't know really who was Christians or not in the industry, but I knew Trey was, and he got to be my teammate. It's like, all right. And like, Trey's had a amazing career, but he's also had a lot of injuries. A lot of people know that, but he was my teammate, and it's like, wow, all right.
How did
cool.
this happen? How did I land
like,
here?
All right, now all of a sudden, from going from a yellow van with nothing to be on Factory Honda and being Trey Kennard's teammate, and that was a huge thing. I learned so much from Trey, and we became good friends since then, and we continued to stay really good friends. And so God kind of used like stuff like that to kind of keep nudging me and like reminding me, because sometimes I would, especially in the early part of my walk, I would forget or not stay consistent, and He would keep doing like things for me to remind me that, hey, you remember I'm still here. So that was pretty amazing. And then really ever since I fully like committed my life to Christ, it's been a journey. I mean, we're always going to be sinners, and we're going to continue to be sinners, but just the grace of God that He loves us anyways.
So touch on that a little bit, because I think a lot of people watching this, and people in our industry and around just in our culture, they kind of think that people, I run into this a lot as a chaplain, where people look at you and say, oh, okay, so Freddie or Trey or somebody that says or professes to be a follower of Jesus, a Christian, well, now they're perfect. They make this connection, this kind of, and it's false, but I want you to talk about that, because I know that's something that's true for me as a chaplain, is true for you as an athlete. It's not about perfection. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's a huge thing, because a lot of people will look at Christians and be like, well, they did something wrong, they're not good people. And what I've come to learn too in my walk is like, I'm never going to be perfect, but that's the beauty of Jesus' sacrifice for us. Like, He laid down His life for our sins because He loves us. Like, it's just purely a grace thing. Like, we can't make it right, so He made it right for us. And looking from an outsider, like, you can't look at me and think I'm perfect, because I'm not. I will never be perfect, ever. If you spend enough time with me, you're going to see me fail. I can't tell you right now what I'm going to do to fail, but you're going to see me fail, because we're humans. We do things, we sin all the time, and we recognize that, and we realize that, and that's where we put our repentance, I guess, and go to God. It's amazing how Jesus opens up His arms for us and still loves us. And that was a big thing for me, also learning that even as a Christian, you're not going to be perfect.
But He still opens up His arms, and even there's a verse, and I know you wanted to share it, about how much He's a friend of us. Like, that's the thing that's compelling to me. Like, even though I still screw up, you still screw up, I'm a follower of Jesus, you are, but He doesn't look at you with shame and guilt like, Freddie, you just screwed up, you're an idiot. He actually has a title, or there's a way He talks about that relationship with us. Tell me about that a little bit, because I know you're fired up about it.
Yeah, no, so before we started the video here, I kind of looked at some scriptures that were important for me. And so one of the scriptures reading through here, because we need to understand why like, why are we created? And it's a huge thing. If you just, a lot of people, I feel like, kind of struggle with that. Like, why were we created? What's the point of it? And it's really, God created us to have a relationship with Him. And they talk about that in John 15:14. He say, "You are my friends." He wants a relationship. That's it. Like, it's not a big like, it is a big commitment, because a relationship is a commitment, but it's not like a to-do list to be a Christian. It's
not a have to.
It's not a have to. No, it's
not a have to friendship. We all have friends like that.
Yeah.
This is a genuine, I want to hang out with you. I want to connect with you. I want to be in your presence and talk. And that's kind of how God views this vertical connection with Him, is what you're saying.
Yeah, it's the relationship that He's after. It's not for us to go and be perfect. He knows we're not going to be perfect. So it's just having this like we have now. Sure, you may not see Jesus with your eye or God with your eye, but it's almost like, it's a fun analogy that I've heard before. It's like, you don't see the air, but you breathe it. You know it's there, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same when you come to realize and accept God and Jesus, that you can feel it. You don't necessarily see Him, maybe. At least I haven't seen Him. Maybe in dreams and stuff, maybe people see Him. I don't know. But it's kind of like the air. It's like, you know it's there. And so you have this relationship with Jesus through the feelings. You can talk to Him. Like, if I was blind, I couldn't see you, but I can hear you there, and I can have a relationship with you. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with God. And actually, Revelations talks about that too, how Revelations 3:20 says, "Here I am, I stand at the door and knock. If anyone hears my voice and opens the door, I will come in and eat with that person, and they with me." Mm-hmm. So Jesus is always constantly knocking at us, wanting to us to let Him in, and it's for that relationship. That's it.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I think people, and you hit on this a little earlier, Freddie, but this relationship, He's perfect. He has never sinned. He walked this planet as a man and God, died and rose again. So people think, I have to be perfect to be in a relationship with Him. Like, I got to get all cleaned up. I run into this a lot, actually, that people say, Jake, I'm not good enough for. Talk about that a little bit, because it's not about that at all, really. Yeah. It's not about cleaning up your life. In fact, Jesus hung out with sinners a ton when He was on this planet. Tell us about that a little bit, because I think that's a compelling part of your story. As you told us, coming into America, meeting Amy, the lights start to go on for your faith. You started to decide to become a follower of Jesus. But it's not about being perfect.
No, for sure not. And it's kind of like when Jesus made Himself known to me. He knew I was dirty, but He didn't tell. Like, His way of it is not saying, hey, you need to go get clean first. Like, you need to go take a shower before you can come take a bath. It's like, I am the shower, I am the bath. Like, just come straight to me, I'll wash you off. And that's the importance of it as well. Like, we are all dirty, if you want to call it that way, and He will rinse us off and make us clean. And there's another verse in the Bible that kind of talks about that. Let's see where it's at. I had it here a moment ago. Remember, Jake? There we go. John 8. It really starts in John 8:3. It really, what it talks about is, it's this woman who's been caught in being an adulteress, and the old way of it would be they would stone her. So the Pharisees.
That was the consequence.
Yeah, that was the consequence
of her committing adultery. Was, by the law, we throw rocks at you until you die.
Yeah, exactly.
By the way, that's not a good way to go, Freddie.
No. So there's better news than that. So these Pharisees go to Jesus and like, hey, kind of putting him at a test, like, hey, what should we do?
The law says we're supposed to stone her. What do you say?
Yeah. So
and his response is pretty ding dang compelling.
It's pretty cool. So he says to them, let any one of you who is without sin be the first to throw a stone at her. So he's telling these people, like, are you any better? Like, if you're perfect, yeah, you go ahead, you throw a stone. So
he levels the playing field.
He levels the playing field, and he goes on, and eventually there's no one left there. So he asked the woman, "Woman, where are they? Has no one condemned you?" "No, sir," she said. "Then neither I do condemn you," Jesus declared. "Go now and leave your life of sin." And that's kind of the amazing part of it. Like, he still doesn't, he wants us to be perfect, but he knows we won't be perfect. So he tells us, I'm not going to shame you or condemn you for being a sinner, but don't continue to sin. Try to be better. Repent. Go the other way. If you keep sinning, then go the other way and try to be better. And that's what he wants from us. He doesn't try to change us because of fear, or if you don't do this, you're not going to get to heaven. It's not that. So that's another big thing that was kind of like for me. It's like, okay, I know I'm going to try to be perfect. I know I'm going to come up short all the time, but Jesus is not going to come to me and say, "No, you're not good enough anymore."
He's not that kind of a friend.
Yeah.
He's not that kind of a God.
Exactly.
Again, because he wants that relationship.
Exactly.
To me, that's an incredible part of so many people. That's a barrier for them, right? They think, well, you have to be perfect, or they see other bad examples, maybe like these religious leaders, they called them Pharisees, that were bad examples of trying to follow Jesus. But one of the things I know following Jesus is there's that motivation of love. And as an athlete, I needed to ask you this because I think it's pretty compelling, Freddie, that so many people say, if you're a Christian, you're soft. Like, if you're a follower of Jesus, then if I push on you, you're like, oh, whatever, I'm not going to. And I find in the work I do with you guys as athletes that the ones following Jesus are actually some of the fiercest. Tell me about that a little bit, because you wouldn't say you're a soft out there on the track. I mean, we're here at Atlanta Motor Speedway where we're looking at this dirt bike track. It's not like you just lay over and like, oh, go ahead, you can beat me. Tell me about that a little bit.
No, yeah, it's funny because if you read the Bible and look at it, you will notice that Jesus was not a soft person. And his disciples walking around with swords and stuff like that, it's like, if there were real time, they would be walking around with guns and AR-15s type of thing. They were pretty bad dudes, but the Bible also tells us to do everything as good as we can. Put everything into it, like put a lot of effort into it. And as a racer, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there, I'm going to try to hole shot. I'm going to try to race you to the next corner.
So if it's me and you in the first corner,
I'm not letting off. I'm not going to T-bone you, unless you T-bone me first. No. But no, and that's the way God wants us to do everything in life. It really is just go all in. If you're going to do it right. Not to be doing things in a immoral or bad way, but do it fiercely and like try to get that whole, in racing for example, try to get that whole shot. Try to get through the first corner first, the second corner first, the third corner first, that jump first, and do that every lap until the checkered. But be a good person doing it too. So it's definitely, you can't say that as a Christian you need to be weak, because Jesus wasn't weak at all. He was a pretty bad dude. So
he's pretty tough, he's pretty strong, he didn't back down, he wasn't a wimp. And so following him, if he's the mark, if he's the standard, that kind of raises the bar almost for you. It makes you go, man, I got to push myself even higher if I say I'm following him, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because if Jesus was a racer, you know that he would do everything perfect. And that's where we as Christians, we need to look at Jesus and have that as our guidance or our mark. Because kind of like what we said earlier, you're going to see me fail and me sin, and you're going to see me do things that are not good. And that's the same if you look at the church. The church are made up with people, and you're going to see a church fail or do things that you don't like or agree with. So it's so important to go straight to the source and go straight to the Bible and pray to God and have Jesus as your mark, because he was the only perfect person on this earth.
I'm glad you said that, because you're not the mark. I'm the chaplain of our series. I'm not the mark. Jesus is. And and then life starts to make a whole lot of sense, because you can find fault with all of us. Sitting down here with Fast Freddie Noren, we're talking about life. We're talking about more than just dirt bikes. We're talking about faith and following Jesus. Freddie, so what's the next step? You talked about Mark chapter 16. Certainly reading a copy of the Bible is super important. It's the best-selling book ever in the history of the world. Tell us a little bit about what are some next steps some of these guys can take.
Yeah, so you start praying, start reading the Bible, start learn about Jesus, why he was here, and the book is endless with information. So and then one important thing is try to get connected with the church, and just try to find people. Like for me, God put Trey Kennard in my life, and Jake Vanada, and Amy, and other people, and now it's I have an abundance, I feel like, with amazing people in my life, like Shane McElrath and Isaac Teasdale, Chris Cole. He's my American dad pretty much, but he's a strong believer as well, and I've kind of gotten this cool group of people to help support me. And then I'm also going to put some of my favorites as far as like books and movies, and some artists, like music artists, are Christians are really good. Like, actually, that was a big thing for me. I thought the Christians were not, there was something different in a weird way with them. But then I learned that these are normal people, and there are normal people making awesome movies
and music, like we're hearing right now. Yeah,
like we're hearing right now, but
pretty
they're
cool.
Christians. So there are options, and I didn't see that until I started learning more. So I'm going to put some of my favorites down there and check it out. And I appreciate you guys watching this, and maybe even throw a comment on there. And if there's something that I can help answer, I'm not sure, because I'm still very early in my walk. It's been I mean, I guess it's been like 8 years now, but
still figuring it out. But I'll jump in. You can forward it to me too. We're sitting here, Fast Freddie. We're talking more than moto. We're talking about life and faith, and what this journey looks like for a Swedish Fast Freddie coming over here to make a mark, make a difference. It's pretty cool. Freddie, thanks for taking the time today.
Thank you, and thank you guys for watching. So stay tuned for more stuff.
Oh yeah.